Hey everybody, and welcome to my top 10 new to me board games of 2023. So these are games that weren't necessarily released in 2023, but I did play them for the first time in 2023. And in fact, I think only one of these games was a 2023 release. I had a really great year of board gaming this year, some fantastic designs as you'll see on this list. Now before I get started on these 10 games, I want to give a shout out to the show sponsor KIENDA.co.uk, who are my go-to online retailer, and if you use the link in the show notes or the QR code, then you can get 5% off your first order. Okay, so at number 10 I have World Exchanges. Now this is a unique game. It's a very light economic game as you are buying and selling these buildings, but you're plotting your finances on this kind of cash flow chart where, you know, if you spend money, you're going to go down in finances. If you sell something, you're going to go up in finances. And as you plot this graph, you are trying to check off these different symbols, because at the end of the game, those symbols are going to multiply with the properties that you have left in front of you. And there are incentives to buy and sell things at the right times, because sometimes in certain points in the game, they'll be worth more money, which of course is going to increase your overall capital. It plays in around 20 to 30 minutes, some good decisions, some good interaction as the things you're selling are going into a common pool ready for the other players to buy and sell. And I was just left so impressed with this little 20-minute filler. So that is World Exchanges at number 10. At number 9, I have Arcadia. So this is an older Rudiger Dawn design. So you might know Rudiger Dawn for games such as Istanbul. But this one is more of an abstract polyomino style game, as you're placing these polyominoes on this communal board, trying to surround them. And once a tile is completely surrounded, either by other tiles or your little personal player pieces, then you will get this kind of currency. And what you're trying to do is that you are trying to manipulate this kind of dynamic market to suit the currency that you have. So when you sell it at certain points in the game, you get bigger multipliers, but you can manipulate that quite carefully, where if you know that your opponent is collecting a certain different type of currency, you can try and tank the value of that and increase yours in the process. So again, it's got that commodity speculation thing going on here. It's quite a tense game. You know, you have to be very careful about the opportunities you leave to your opponents. But I was left so impressed by this one. It kind of feels a bit timeless. Very abstract in its nature, but it is a fantastically well put together game. So that is Arcadia at number 9. At number 8, I have Wagon, which ironically has had a reprint this year. I've only played the original one, so this is like it's kind of like an economic game as you are producing these cars and trying to sell them based on these customers' wants and needs. The main action selection system is cool because it has that time track system where you can go as far as you want for the action you want, but you won't get another turn until the other players bypass you. It's very familiar with a game like Glenmore from the same designer, but I really do love that supply and demand thing here, where a customer might say, well, I want the fastest car with the best engine, and I might produce the fastest car, and because I know that nobody else can compete with me in that particular engine type, then I might stick a really high price tag on that car. But if somebody manages to catch up with me and put one of their cars on the market that's just as fast, they can undercut me in terms of pricing, and then the customer will buy that one instead. So again, very simple supply and demand, economic mechanisms, but it works really well. And I'm really impressed by this game, and I'm so happy that it's been reprinted and is more accessible to more Eurogamers. So that is Wagon at number 8. At number 7, I have Spirium. So Spirium is kind of a worker placement game, but you're not placing your workers on worker placement spots. You're placing them between these cards that are formulated on this grid. And it has this real kind of pushy luck chicken system, where the more people place their workers next to these cards, the value goes up, or the cost goes up each time. But when it comes to your turn, when you finish deploying your workers, when you remove the workers, you can either choose to pay for these cards based on how many meeples are surrounding it. So again, more demand, more cost. Or you can gain coins equal to the amount of people surrounding that card. And money in this game is generally quite tight. But every time you take a worker away and gain that money, you're making it cheaper for the next person to buy it. Absolutely fascinated by that mechanism. I think it's such a cool, visceral and tense decision. And just the orientation and how you place your meeples is a really smart game mechanism. Other than that, you are essentially trying to get these gems, convert them into victory points, build up a bit of an engine of special abilities, and it's just a real nice throwback kind of Euro game from a bygone era really. So this game holds up remarkably well. Much like Wagon, this could easily do with a fresh lick of paint and can be released exactly as it is in terms of its gameplay mechanisms, because it is that solid of a design. So that is Spirium at number 7. At number 6, I have Darwin's Journey, which, as I said at the beginning of the video, this is the only 2023 release on this list. Now, this is a medium-heavy worker placement style game, as you are placing your customizable workers on the worker placement spots, and basically trying to climb tracks either on these islands to collect bonuses, or endgame scoring track, or a multiplier track. And you're even trying to discover these species and plot them on this kind of communal grid in order to get points and get further multipliers. Really well put together game. It goes to show that there's still room to make solid Euros, considering there are so many. A Simone Luciani design. If you like worker placements and you like heavier style games, this one is definitely one to take a look at. So that is Darwin's Journey at number 6. At number 5, I have Sola, which is a game that I think is one of the most underrated games in my collection. Most people don't rate this game terribly high, or if they do, they think it's just okay and not fantastic like I do. But this, I think, has a really distinct identity, as you are acquiring this kind of hand of characters and you're trying to utilize them as best as possible. So it has this kind of multi-use card system where you are using these cards to acquire new cards and these kind of special ability tiles, as well as trying to use the powers themselves. Now, it does have a degree of commodity speculation as you're collecting these tokens, which will fluctuate in value as the game goes on. And there's lots of kind of dynamic mechanisms and interactive mechanisms here as you are trying to outbid your opponents on different things, and again, utilize those characters as well as possible, because if you're using them for one thing, you're not using them for another. A difficult game to explain, but not terribly complex. But if you see this one on the market out there, because there's quite a few second-hand copies, and you like your mid-weight Euros and you like a bit of interaction in your games, then definitely give Sola a look. At number 4, I have Rise. So Rise is a game all about climbing tracks. So tons of combos and synergies here, as you're using a pretty simple kind of gamer interface where you're just selecting which card you want. The further card along you pick, the more money you pay, but you'll get some other bonuses. And then that's going to determine which tracks you climb up. So you're going to move along one track, which might let you move along another track, which might let you move along another track, and so on. So this is probably one of the strongest examples of a domino effect style games, where if you like those huge satisfying turns where one move can trigger another, can trigger another, can trigger another, this is what this game is all about. So I'm sure you'll like it if you like those tons of little dopamine hits in that style of gameplay. That roll and write games generally tend to offer. This is kind of a bigger and broader version of that. Lots of variability here, because you can use either side of these boards. Some tracks you're just trying not to slip down, some you're trying to go as far as you can, some of them you're trying to a bit more carefully orienteer, and it's just a joy to play, in my opinion. This is a game that as soon as I played it, I thought, yeah, this is my style of game. Simple mechanically, very easy rule set, but tons of consequences to your actions. And that's why I like Rise so much. At number 3, I have the third Istari game on the list. This is Assyria. So Assyria, another criminally underrated, kind of forgotten gem of a midweight Euro. Kind of an area control style game. Bit of resource management, bit of an engine builder, bit of a track climber, but all put together in quite a distinct package, as you are drafting these cars in order to place your kind of control markers on the board. But in order to keep your control markers there, you need to keep on paying that cost, or you're going to be forced to remove them. You are trying to position these markers into little triangles and make these wells to give you instant points, as well as trying to erect these kind of ziggurat temples in order to generate you ticking points to start generating points each round. Good competition here. There's lots of, again, kind of side games in terms of area control to get tons of points and bonuses. And yeah, this is like, again, my kind of mid-weight Euro that ticks all the boxes for me. Simple rule set, interesting decisions, not too long, engaging, good interaction, a nice tight board. And yeah, this game just sings to me. So again, you probably haven't heard of this game because it's not really out there in the zeitgeist, but if you like your mid-weight Euros, you don't mind that kind of beige look, then I'm sure you are going to enjoy Assyria. At number 2, I have Chin by Rainer Knizia. Now this is kind of a domino style game as you're placing these double-sided tiles, or like cut in half tiles on this board, a communal board. And as soon as you play 2 tiles of the same type touching each other, then you are going to place a pagoda on them. And the idea of this game is you're trying to get rid of your pagodas before the other players do. So it does have this real race kind of effect or race feel of the game. But there are additional twists where you can encroach on other players' areas and steal it from them. If you build areas big enough, you can get rid of another pagoda, or if you encroach on these towns that are pre-printed on the board, then you can get another one as long as you are touching that town with more pieces than anybody else. So it is pretty much an abstract style game, but it's breezy enough that anybody can play it and still have fun. So it doesn't have that kind of dry, stuffy, almost like zero-sum feel of an abstract style game. It's a lot more fun, a lot more breezy, more relaxed. Good interaction, lots of turn angst, and you know, you are somewhat pigeonholed in what you can do because you only ever have 3 tiles at any time, and again, that's going to restrict what you can do on the board. So you're not spoiled or drowning in options either. So I think this one strikes a perfect balance between being, you know, inviting or even like yeah, it has a lure to more experienced gamers because there is rich gameplay here, but still the rule set means that anybody can play this and get better at it. So Chin, definitely a home run for me and a true staple of my collection now. And finally, at number 1, the best game that I played in 2023 is War Chest. So, you know, War Chest, a game that I was not sure I was going to like because this is one of those more dry, abstract style games, but this game does a great job of blurring that perfect information. You cannot just completely deduce what your opponent's options are because there is that random element of this kind of bag building mechanism as your units on the board that you're trying to use to traverse and control these different regions and put your control markers down. All your actions are dictated by these tiles that you draw from your bag that you've kind of tailor-made yourself as the game goes on. All the units have a unique ability and you cannot have the same unit as your opponent. So therefore, each time you're playing this game, especially if you do it randomly like I do, you randomly select all your units, you're having to adjust your tactics on the fly and try to exploit all those abilities as much as possible. And because this game is so simple in its kind of core rule set, it means that the slight tweaks on the unique abilities of the units themselves make a hell of a lot of difference. You know, if you have a unit that moves an extra space, you might think, well, what big deal is that? But in the confines of this game, that is actually huge. A fantastic expansion as well. You can just chuck it into the mix and just pick some random units and see how you get on. And yeah, this game I think is a masterpiece. I think it's timeless. I think it feels like it's been around for hundreds of years. And again, it does that great job of softening the blow of a pure head-to-head abstract game because of that randomness of the tokens and you having to use those as best as you can rather than just being able to do anything at any time. And you can even use that to deduce, or you can even use the tiles drawn to deduce what your opponent's options are if you get really good at this game or more experienced with it. So I think it's close to perfection. I think it's that good. I'm not always in the mood to play it because it's that kind of more confrontational game. But again, at face value, objectively, this game is almost as good as it gets. So there we have it. That concludes the video. Hopefully you have enjoyed it and even discovered a game or two that you wasn't so familiar about. But I've had a fantastic year of gaming. I'm sure I've got some more games to play this year, but I'll just add them onto next year's kind of eligibility list. So again, if you have enjoyed the video, please be sure to hit like and subscribe to my channel and check out my other content too. And for everybody else, I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye bye.